Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Shlopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradha Jana Girivaradha Taksoranandana Brajajana Atira Vanata Jaya Radha Punjabi Jaya Radha Punjabi Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradha Yasodhanandana Vandana Yasodhanandana Katira Vanata Katira Vanata Jaya Radha Punjabi Hari Adava Punjabi Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradha Yasodhanandana Vandana Natira Vanata Natira Vanata Adava Punjabi Heart Shanara Adava Punjabi Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada 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 Jaya 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 Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to manage all these things, but we will try. Nevertheless, stay up. Yeah. You can. One more. God. Yeah, we've got lots and lots of devices. Lots and lots of devices. This device, the computer, the small mic. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. So we're reading from Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind. And we're on chapter 3. Today's text is text number 18. Bhutani Visor Sura Pujitani Durdasa Ligani Mahabhutani Rakshanti Tat Bhakti Mata Parebhyo Matascha Marchyan Atha Sarvatascha. What shall we do? Shall we? Okay, let's do it. Bhutani Vishnu Sura Pujitani. Please repeat. Durdasa Ligani Mahabhutani Raksanti Tat Bhaktimata Parbhyo Matascha Marchyan Atha Sarvatascha. Bhutani Vishnu Sura Pujitani Durdasa Ligani Mahabhutani Rakshanti Tat Bhakti Mata Parabhyo Matascha Marchyan Artha Sarvatascha. Okay, Bhutani, living entities or servants. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu. Sura Pujatani, who are worshipped by the demigods. Durdasa Lingani, possessing forms not easily seen. Maha Adbhutani, great wonderful. Rakshanti, they protect. Tat Bhakti Mata, the devotees of the Lord. Parabhyo, Parabhya, from others who are inimical. Mata, from me, Yamaraj, and my order carriers. Cha, and Martyan, the human beings. Atha, thus, Sarvata, from everything. Cha, and. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The order carriers of Lord Vishnu, who are worshipped even by the demigods, possess wonderful bodily features exactly like those of Vishnu, and are seen and are very rarely seen. The Vishnu Dutas protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of enemies, from envious persons, and even from my jurisdiction, as well as from natural disturbances. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Yamaraj has specifically described the qualities of the Vishnu Dutas to convince his own servants not to be envious of them. Yamaraj warned the Yamadutas that the Vishnu Dutas are worshipped with respectful obeisances by the demigods and are always very alert to protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of enemies, from natural disturbances, and from all dangerous conditions in this material world. Sometimes the members of the Krishna Consciousness Society are afraid of the impending danger of the world war, and ask what would happen to them if a war should occur. In all kinds of danger, they should be confident of their protection by the Vishnu Dutas, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Kunteya Pratijanihi na me bhakta pranasyati. Material danger is not meant for devotees. This is also confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Padam Yat Vipadam Na Tesham. In the material world, there are dangers at every step, but they are not meant for devotees who have fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The pure devotees of the Lord Vishnu, the pure devotees of Lord Vishnu may rest assured of the Lord's protection, and as long as they are in the material world, they should fully engage in devotional service by preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, namely the Hare Krishna movement of Krishna consciousness. Om Agyanatimarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmittam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasindurevcha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaur Bhakti Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So please give some blessings so I can say something beneficial. So we're at the section where in the Bhagavatam, of course, Ajmil has seen the Vishnu Dutas, has seen the Yamadutas. He is very, very afraid. And in the last chapter, we saw that the Vishnu Dutas have protected Ajmil from danger and, have reassured him, do not be afraid. And we also saw that the Vishnu Dutas, of course, they were in one sense defeated by the Vishnu Dutas, and they have taken Ajmir. They want to take Ajmir away instead of the Yamadutas, and so now they have gone back to Yamaraj, and they want some justice. They want the Vishnu Dutas. They wanted the Vishnu Dutas to be punished by Yamaraj because, as far as they were concerned, Yamaraj is the supreme authority. But in these verses, we are seeing that Yamaraj is, trying to explain the situation holistically to the Yamadutas. So in this particular verse, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu who are worshipped even by the demigods, possess wonderful bodily features exactly like those of Vishnu and are very rarely seen. The Vishnu Dutas protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of the enemies, from the envious persons, and from my jurisdiction, as well as natural disturbances. So Yamaraj is speaking, and he's explaining how the Vishnu Dutas are protecting the devotees. He's describing, of course, the bodily features, and they are worshipped by even the demigods. So Yamaraj Prabhupada is mentioning the purport. He's, trying to convince his own servants not to be envious of them. So, Yamaraj, of course, to some degree, there is this ego, or false ego, in terms of the services they carry out. But of course, they very, very surrendered to Lord Yamaraj. So Prabhupada is quoting these two verses here. Kunteya Pati Janihi na me bhakta pranasyati. And so we see that this is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada is quoting. Sorry, from the Bhagavad Gita, 9:31. Kunteya Prati Janihi na me bhakta pranas. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. So, of course, Krishna is speaking these words to Arjuna and asking him to declare it boldly that his devotee never perishes. So we see in the battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was very, very bewildered, and at some point did to Lord Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and asking for instructions. So Lord Krishna has been gradually giving him knowledge, and in this particular verse, he explains to Arjuna that he should declare it that his devotee never perishes. So just some technical aspects around this. Of course, many places in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna declares that, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Um, but it becomes more powerful when a devotee of Krishna declares on his behalf that a devotee never perishes, or the protection that can be achieved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I wanted to look at a few examples from the Bhagavatam on this idea of protection by the devotees, protection by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we can look at the examples given in the Bhagavatam of Gajendra. If we can remember, Gajendra was the elephant king in one sense, and he was king of the elephants, enjoying long duration of life. It's explained in the story of Gajendra that he had 1,000 wives, and he was just living life and enjoying life, and all other living entities were very, very terrified, of his presence even. So when they would see him, they would all just immediately run away. So very, very powerful elephant, and we find that there is in the pastime, Gajendra at some point goes to drink some water in a nearby lake, and of course he gets in, starts drinking, the water, and invites, his wives and children and everybody to come and enjoy. And everybody is, having a good time, and suddenly, from out of nowhere, a very large, powerful crocodile attacks Gajendra, and he grabs a hold of him, grabs his leg, and despite his enormous strength, despite so many amazing qualities that Gajendra had, he wasn't able to break free from this crocodile's grasp. And so it's explained that this fight continued for 1,000 years. Uh, he was just not able to break free from this grip of the crocodile. And so eventually, what happened was that he had remembered from his previous life when he was being trained about the protection of this from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so suddenly, as he was able to remember this, he had made some prayers uh, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after that, we find that he was able to break free, and the crocodile was killed. The other example we wanted to look at was Draupadi. And so, of course, we know the pastime of Draupadi and the Pandavas in losing the game of dice, and losing the entire kingdom in this game of dice. Of course, there was some trickery on the behalf of the Kauravas, but still, eventually they even lost Draupadi in this game. And so the Kauravas, of course, uh, are continuing to humiliate the Pandavas to the extent we understand that Dushashan wanted to disrobe Draupadi. And so we see in Draupadi's example, of course, in the court arena, the five Pandavas are there, and all their heads are bowed down in shame, because they are completely helpless. They cannot stop Dushashan from the disrobing. But we see that Draupadi is in a very, very helpless condition, and she can understand that just see even these 5 powerful warriors, are not able to protect me. And so she throws up her hands and she just meditates on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, immediately, unlimited lengths of her sari, as Sushani is trying to disrobe her, there's no end to the length of sari that she's wearing. So, yeah, we see that, in her example as well, that, she had to pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to get out of this distressful situation. Then we see there's other examples given of Maharaj Ambarish and Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj, of course, we understand from his pastime, he was 5 years old when he was being tormented by his father, Hiranyakashipu. And so at 5 years old, of course, Prahlad Maharaj was always, chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord. But we see in these two particular examples, they never really prayed for protection from the Supreme Lord. Whereas in the other two examples, there was some prayer to the Supreme Lord. But from these two examples, we see that, Prahlad Maharaj never really prayed to be protected. He was just being, Prahlad Maharaj, a 5-year-old devotee, even though he was, the son of a demon, still he was a devotee, but he never really made any prayers. And we see the same with King Ambarish, the pastime where Durvasa Muni had come to visit his kingdom, and Ambarish Maharaj was observing Ekadasi, and very, very strictly. I think it was for 1 year. He was supposed to be observing very, very strictly Ekadasi, and so it came time to break fast when Durvasa Muni had just arrived. And of course, Ambarish Maharaj welcomed Durvasa Muni as a great saint, and welcomed him to the kingdom, and wanted him to get something to eat, get some prasad. So he was getting ready to serve him prasad. So Durvasa Muni, we see in that pastime, he went to the river first to take his bath and then come back. And of course, by the time he and his entourage had gone to the river, it was time to break fast. So what to do? Ambarish Maharaj was very, very perplexed. He wanted to break fast, but at the same time, he didn't want to honor any prasad because he wanted to honor after Durvasa Muni, a great saint, had taken prasad. So he was in a perplexed situation again, dilemma. But we see that he chose the route of drinking water. So in some places, it is explained that one can break fast with drinking water, and sometimes it's considered that you don't break your fast with drinking water. So, and nevertheless, he decided to, of course, break his fast with just drinking water, which can be technically considered not breaking your fast. But as soon as he did that, of course, Durvasa Muni had realized that, just see, this king has taken prasad, broke his fast before I can honor. And so in this way, he immediately came back and he cursed Ambarish Maharaj. And what happened? There was a great demon that was harassing Ambarish Maharaj. But we see in Ambarish Maharaj's case, he was just when this demon showed up, he didn't even move an inch. That's what's explained in the Bhagavatam, that he didn't even move an inch. So in that example, we see that, he didn't pray necessarily to the Supreme Lord, although he could have, but he did not pray to the Supreme Lord for protection. But we see that just by his behavior, he was just not disturbed at all by whatever was going on, this great demon, that of course Krishna had sent the Sudarshan Chakra to protect him and give him all protection. So we can see that, in the material world, there's just so much of uh, calamities, just so much of trouble, being in the material world around us, our bodies, uh, just so much of misery is there in the material world. And of course, we understand from the Shastra that there's three kinds of miseries that the living entity endures uh, whilst undergoing this material experience: the Adidevic, Adipautic, and Adhyatmic. Adhyatmic is miseries caused by the mind. Devic is miseries caused by the devas, natural disasters, and things like that. And Adi is miseries caused by other living entities. So in this particular verse, that's also significant because it's mentioned by Yamaraj that, very specifically, the Vishnu Dutas protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of enemies, from envious persons, and even from my jurisdiction, as well as from natural disturbances. So, of course, devotees are always concerned, about war, natural disasters, uh, earthquakes, and so many things. We're all concerned what to do in these situations. So, in this verse, we can see that, Yamaraj is reassuring us that, devotees are always protected by the Supreme Lord. It doesn't matter the circumstances. So, of course, we see that, in so many great devotees' lives, it's not that, nothing's going to happen. We're just going to be continuously happy, with no disturbances. We have to understand we're undergoing these material experiences in the material world, and it's just how we react to these things. How do we remain equipoised in all circumstances? Uh, and so these, so many examples are there uh, of great devotees being in distressful situations. What to speak of the Pandavas, great devotees of the Lord. So we see in their life in Mahabharat, how much they had to endure in their life. Imagine Supreme Personality of Godhead is personally present in their midst, but still, so much of hardship, distress. The house of lack. You know, losing so many children in the battle. I mean, so many people had to die in the battlefield. So much of devastation is there. So, of course, we see the classic example of, Arjuna's bewilderment initially. Arjuna's plan was, I don't want to partake in the battle. I don't want to fight. I just want to go to the forest and, not kill my relatives. But we see Krishna's advice to him was, he needs to do his duty. He's a Kshatriya. Uh, don't be afraid of tribulations. Go forward. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna promises that he will give us all protection. And of course, we see the last verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's very, very clear. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Sarva dharman rajyaja mam ekam enam raja aham tvam sarva papyabhyo mokshayisyami masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all. So we see, in so many great devotees' life, what to speak. Even Srila Prabhupada's life. Um, Prabhupada gives, one very vivid example that when he had taken sannyas, one time, he was distributing, I think, magazine, and there was a bull that had, approached him and had pushed him over. I have it here somewhere. And Prabhupada was, hurt really badly. And so he was thinking, because it was just after he had taken sannyas. And so even at that stage, he was thinking that, have I made some mistake? Why did this happen to me? Prabhupada, of course, is trying to preach, and he had just taken sannyas, and he was distributing magazines on the streets, and, this bull had just approached him and, tossed him, and he had become very severely injured. But then he started to, uh, pray to the Supreme Lord, and not to be disturbed by these types of incidences. Yeah, I don't know whether it is other examples from the Bhagavatam, of course, the Govardhan Hill pastime, where Krishna had convinced his father Nanda Maharaj to not do Indra Puja, but do Govardhan Puja. And so, of course, we see that example. Lord Indra had become very, very upset with the residents of Raj, and he was just devastating the town, with so much of disaster. We find in that pastime as well, Lord Krishna had protected the residents of Vrindavan by lifting Govardhan Hill. So in our day-to-day lives, here now, Gita Nagari, but just around the world, I don't know, I haven't heard of, at least in my short stay, I haven't heard of, devotees suffering to the extent of the rest of society in terms of, murder, killings, ghastly scenes like that. I haven't really heard of, devotees getting entangled uh, in, intricate ways like that. Of course, there's the usual miseries of, birth, old age, disease, death. So, cancer, so many, diseases are there. So these things are, just on the material plane, affecting the material body. Uh, but in terms of our day-to-day lives, we can see very, very well that, Supreme Lord is protecting us. So we should be very encouraged, just looking around at other devotees. There was one example Radhanath Maharaj had given, and I think he gave devotees in permission to, share this example. But in 1980s, I think it was, the Taj uh, shootings or the uprisings at the Taj in Mumbai. So there was an incident where, there was some person who was, terrorizing the hotel and, just killing so many people. So many people lost their lives. And there was one particular devotee, who was part of the police force. And, these persons had, at least in this particular example, these three police persons had entered the hotel, and of course, they were just coming under constant fire. They just couldn't, understand, uh, where it was coming from, and trying to figure things out. Very, very high pressured situation. Uh, that so many people were losing their lives, but these persons could lose their life at any moment. And it's explained that there was, of course, smoke bombs, just so much of haziness in the area that you couldn't even see 1 foot in front of you. So, what to speak of, entering a room or part of the building where, you can try to assess what's going on. So this was the situation, that there was just so much of smoke that you could hardly even see each other. So, the three of them had entered, and, this devotee started to pray, for protection from Lord Nishingadev. And he was thinking, I think on his phone, he had Nishingadev prayers uh, as a voice recording. And so he started to play, I think, this, in that situation, he started to play this Nishinga prayers. And of course, this thing is playing, but chaos is ensuing, and there's just, constant fire. And so eventually what happened was, of course, when the person was killed, two persons besides this devotee, one was on the left, one was the right, they also lost their lives. And this devotee was saved. But of course, when everything settled down, this devotee actually found, when they had entered, of course, they couldn't see where they were going because, they couldn't see in front of them. But there was a huge pillar in front where he was. And so, of course, when the gunfire was coming, he was protected by the pillar. So we can see, Krishna can do so many amazing things. So from that example, we can see that, Lord Nishingadev had definitely protected him. Similar to the example of how Lord Nishingadev had appeared from the pillar in, the pastime of Hiranyakashipu. So in this way, we're afforded so much of protection by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All we need to do is chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. Still, we always make so many excuses why chanting is very difficult, why there's not enough time for chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, what else was there? Okay, we can maybe stop there. There's one or two other points. But if anybody has any comments or questions, please. Any comments or questions? Yeah.
Just whenever there's things like that, let's say comparatively to just mainstream society of devotees, yeah, are as bad off, or yeah, maybe the things happen, which I mean, particularly. But then I can also think of a bunch of examples of devotees like as a whole soul, like all kinds of stuff. I'm like Iron Curtain, things like that, or like the temple
Yeah.
or like devotees, you know, they're in a car crash and die, or this or that, the other kind of thing. Or even if devotees like lose their health, then it's a lot of the time when you're not really, really Krishna conscious, then people are like, oh, Krishna, why I thought you were supposed to protect us. So I'm
Yeah, so of course there is some examples, devotees dying in a car crash, uh, and similar examples. Bangladesh uh, temple, I think, got attacked, and there is also some U.S. examples, I guess. New Vrindavan is there. So the idea is that sometimes killing is necessary, like we saw in the Battle of Kurukshetra, that Krishna is personally present. So, but the point is that um, in certain instances, death or killing might be necessary. And it's sometimes very difficult for us to see, beyond uh, how was it beneficial. And, of course, we cannot see into the future, but from the examples given in the Bhagavatam, we can see, how certain things are arranged. Uh, and I don't know the specific verse, but, of course, Krishna assures us that at least as far as his pure devotees are concerned, that all protection, we understand from examples like that, different services awaits, and so we all are going to leave the body. I think that's the point. Precarious situation in the material world, and death can come at any moment. And of course, we see the example, I think it was Yudhishthira Maharaj that asked the question, what is the most amazing, was it Parikshit Maharaj, what is the most amazing thing? And of course, the reply was uh, that, we see death all around us, but still somehow we think that, we're not going to die as well. But if we, of course, accept that we are going to die, then, we want death to come on our terms. But of course, we understand karma is very, very complex. And, who knows what our past life karma is like, and, how much of karma we've accumulated in this lifetime. So, trying to analyze and understand that can be, very tedious as well. So the idea is, let's not get too bogged down in the detail. We can see, there's, as far as devotees are concerned, there's always protection afforded. And we need to have sufficient faith also, from citing so many examples. I remember there was one example of, some person that was being abused in a relationship. And yeah, the abuse had, of course, been going on for some time. And eventually, the abuser, of course, yeah, there was some argument. And in that argument, the person who was being abused had somehow, snapped the other person's kantimala. And at that point, the person just dropped dead. So somehow kantimala was just protecting to that point. So there is just so many examples, in our day-to-day lives. Supreme Lord is giving, so much of protection, um, but it may not be according to our time, place, circumstance that, we want things to play out. But, we can see Yamaraj is, advising even his messengers that, this is the position of the Vishnu Dutas. They are even worshipped by the demigods. This is how powerful they are. And, we see as far as the demigods are concerned, uh, there's just powerful demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, you know, Lord Indra. So these persons are even worshipping the Vishnu Dutas. Anyone else wants to comment on, our practicality of being protected by the Supreme Lord, share some pastimes? I'm not sure if this is working anymore. Yeah. Yes, that excerpt. So this is Prabhupada speaking. In the beginning, it appears to be very bitter. When I took sannyas, when I was living alone, I was feeling very bitter. I was thinking whether I have done wrong by accepting. So when I was publishing this Back to Godhead from Delhi, one day one bull trashed me and I fell down on the footpath and I got severe injury. I was alone. So I was thinking, what is this? So I had many days of very tribulations, but it was all meant for good. So don't be afraid of tribulations, you see. Go forward. Krishna will give you protection. That is Krishna's promise. So these are Prabhupada's words. Of course, we understand, even on the Jaladuta, Prabhupada had so many heart attacks, making the journey to America. So it's not that, even the pure devotees are completely immune. Of course, in one sense they are, but, for our vision, for our encouragement, uh, they're able to endure so much. The other verse that Prabhupada quotes in the purport is actually a verse from uh, the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 14, and it's verse number 58. So that's the chapter of Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna that he quotes. Uh, and the verse here is, well, the verse translation: for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Param Padam Vaikunta, the place where there is no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. So this is the goal. We see in this case, Lord Brahma is, offering prayers to the Supreme Lord. He had just stolen all the calves and the cowherd boys, being bewildered for a little while, where Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But of course, we see in that past time, Krishna had manifest all the boys and calves again. And, Lord Brahma was very bewildered how this is possible. And, comes to the realization that actually this is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's offering so much of prayers now, in a humble mood, and, praying to the Supreme Lord, explaining that, the material world, there is danger at every step. But our goal, of course, is to go back to Godhead, to the spiritual world of Vaikuntha, where there is no material industry. Any more comments, questions, devotees?
Of like a like a pray for something midnight.
Not in terms of, extreme calamity. The only one other thing was, of course, we see as an extreme example, the prayers of Queen Kunti, where Queen Kunti figured out, there's just so much of suffering in the material world. And of course, her prayer was, uh, my dear Lord, bring on the calamities. Because, when there is calamity, immediately one looks for shelter at the Supreme Lord. So one time Bhakti Maharaj, I think he did it in Mayapur in a class, he asked the devotees, how many of you can pray like Queen Kunti? And so, of course, not everyone is very inclined to make extreme prayers like this. But, if we become convinced that, we will be protected by the Supreme Lord, then there's no question that, one can make prayers like Queen Kunti. So I think maybe in my developments that chapter hasn't surfaced that level of surrender, uh, of being protected by the Supreme Lord. I don't know, I'm trying to think. I know definitely there's been, so many near misses in terms of our service. I mean, for example, I think the devotees who milk the cows, they see, action in Krishna consciousness, that, the cows kick from time to time. And, you know, the kick of the cow is so powerful that, you can break your legs, you can get seriously injured. Still, somehow we continue to serve in this way by taking care of Krishna's cows and milking Krishna's cows. And, we've had so many near misses, so to speak, but we can understand it's not just a near miss that, the service devotees are doing. We are being protected by the Supreme Lord. And what to speak, of uh, being under the shelter of the cows specifically. Yeah. Okay, if there's no more comments or questions, thank you, devotee. Sukrantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. No questions. No questions. No questions. No questions. Wow.
Answer.
Oh.